tariffs. Let us talk about what's really going on. Let's figure out what is happening with those tariffs. What's really going on, quite frankly? Well, as I'm standing there in the US this week, I am thinking about the following surprising take on tariffs. What do I mean by that? What is my surprising take? The surprising take is as follows. On one hand, what we have, right? On one hand, we have the tariffs, quote unquote, and we'll go in details as to what they are and what they mean and what's the potential implication. But basically, you have the tariffs. You know, they were almost null last year, and now this year, we have very much multiplied by almost four the amount of tariffs. So huge amount of tariffs are being implemented in the US by the Trump administration. Now, it is being implemented. At the same time, I'm sure you're hearing, we're discussing, we'll figure out what's going on. Is it going to be signed? Is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Now, what you need to understand is that while we have the tariffs are very important. We have the tariffs right now. The US is making money from those tariffs. Yes, the US is making money from those tariffs as we speak. How is that happening? Well, I mean, the tariffs are alive. They were at 10%. Now, on average, like in China, for example, is at 30%. So money is coming into the fray. What is not happening is a deal, a deal with the tariff, a situation where we actually have, an agreement, an ongoing agreement. We don't have that. No, we don't. So what does it mean? Does it mean that we don't have a deal? Well, you don't have a deal, but in the meantime, you're collecting on those tariffs. You are collecting on the tariffs as we speak. And this is important. This is extremely important. You know why? Because even though we don't have a deal, we're collecting money. And you know how much money we're collecting in the US? This is important for you to know as an investor, right? So far in June, we are up 81%, i.e. 72 billion. The US is collecting money on those tariffs. It's actually working, believe it or not. You may like it, you may not like it. Don't forget to subscribe, by the way. You may like it or may not like it, but we are collecting $72 billion on those tariffs, plus 81%. We don't have a deal, right? It's not signed in blood by all parties. And while we're discussing, we are charging. The US is charging a tremendous amount of money on its tariffs. It last year in May of 2025 it collected 6 billion. Now it's collecting 23 billion. So money's coming in. Money's coming in. June 2025, 72 billion so far. 81% increase. In 2025, it is expected that the US will collect $156 billion in tariffs. 156 billion in tariffs. That's a lot of money. That's almost 0.5% of the GDP. So for those people that says, Trump doesn't know what he's talking about, it's not working. Well, I mean, technically, the only real deal that you have where it's signed is with the UK, right? You're basically going to charge them, a certain amount of money on the money coming in, on their tariffs coming in, or about 10%, and then of course 25%. But the point is, while we're talking, while we're discussing, we have a deal. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so I keep you up to date on a daily basis as to what's going on. This year I'm in the US, last year I was in Europe. I like to travel and I like to keep my subscribers up to date what's going on with what I think is happening. So let's bottomless this thing. Let's bottom line this situation. So what do we have going on with China right now? Right now, there's a 30% tariffs in effect. Now last week Trump said, we got a deal. We have a deal. Well, we have an agreement. Nothing has been signed. They have an agreement to actually sign the document. But in the meantime, 30% in effect in China, 10% tariffs for most countries, 10%, 50% steel tariff, 25% on auto, except for Canada and Mexico. So we are collecting, the US is collecting money on the tariffs. So I guess you could say, well, it's working. Well, money's coming in. I don't know if we have a deal, if it's going to last forever, which is the uncertainty, obviously. But what's not uncertain is money coming in. Now, Yale, according to Yale, all that money from the tariffs that are coming in, this is important for you to know for your portfolio. This is important for you to know. That money that's coming in from the tariffs, according to Yale, is going to be $2 trillion if they hold the way they are over the 2026-2035 period. That's a lot of money. Now, of course, the CBO, which is the organization that's supposed to be independent, they're saying that they're going to see maybe around 942 billion. Now, there's a lot of discussion about the CBO, Congressional Business Office. You probably have heard it a lot. You're going to hear it a lot because we're going to be voting pretty soon. Hey, Zebra. Zebra Cake, how you doing? So don't forget to subscribe, Zebra. So the CBO is not really that independent because they're saying we're going to save 942. Yale is saying 2 trillion for the same period. We'll discuss. We'll see what the deal is. But the point is it going to hold? There's a court decision going on right now saying you can't charge these tariffs. This is wrong. This is wrong for you to do it. Well, I mean, right now it's stayed on appeal, so they're talking. But meanwhile, what they're talking back and forth, the money is coming in. The US is charging 10% across all these 100 countries. Now, as far as a deal, do we have a deal with anyone? Well, you have a deal with the UK, and that's it. And you don't have a deal with China. You don't have a deal with Europe. You don't have a deal with anyone. But it doesn't mean that the money is not coming in. The money is coming in, and this is good for you, right, if you live in the US. Because basically, technically speaking, and let's see how it works out, but while on one hand, Trump is actually going to increase the debt, the national debt, by potentially $4 trillion or 3.7, according to the CBO office, he is also, I'm teaching you stuff right now, beautiful background. So you're learning as you are listening, which is great. It's raining a lot, but don't worry about that. We got it all covered. The point is right now what's happening is the US is making deals, right? The US is collecting money. Of course, if you're on the negative side, if you don't like Trump, you're going to say, yeah, but the guy's not doing anything. No, money's not coming in. I mean, you don't have a deal. Yeah, but on the other hand, money is coming in. And when I say money is coming in money is coming on by 81%, with 72 billion, 81% more money coming in because money is actually coming in. You don't have a deal, but money is coming in, okay? China is hurting, Canada and Mexico, 25% in effect. So you may like the guy, you may not like the guy. The point is that money. Now, what are we going to do with that money, right? The deal is he's also going to lower taxes in the US and increasing de facto the long-term debt, the national debt by $3.7 trillion. Now, you need to know about this national debt because if this thing gets out of control, that could sink the US, literally, because it won't be able to pay for it. But in the meantime, it is happening. They are collecting money, and it is doing good. The point is they're saying, well, the $4 trillion, that doesn't include the potentially $2 trillion in tariffs. So it's not really 4, it's 4 minus 2. Hey, Parada, how you doing? Parada James, nice to meet you. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. I'm just explaining to everyone here, people coming in and out. I'm explaining to everyone what's going on with the tariffs and why, frankly, there's a surprising take. You need to understand that while we don't have deals, money is coming in. So I don't know, maybe we have a deal. Maybe, don't forget the maturity. We have until, I believe it's until, you have 3 more weeks when that 90-day period ends. When A couple of months ago, Trump said, "Hey, I'm going to charge everyone, 50% or whatever, huge amount." People panicked, and he said, "Okay." The market kind of got out of control. He said, "Okay, fine. I'm going to give you 90 days to think about these things. 90 days to think about the tariffs." Now, there's only 3 weeks left, and out of the 100 countries that we're supposed to have a deal on, you only have really the UK that you have a deal. You don't have a deal with China. You have an agreement. You haven't signed anything. And according to China, it's only good for 6 months. And what's happening is no one wants to give Trump the time of day in terms of saying, you know what, you're right. We're going to do a deal with you. Right? They're not doing that with Trump. In fact, right now, they all the G7 is over in Calgary, in Canada. And usually what happens at that time, they give a statement. Everybody makes a statement and say, okay, this is what we've agreed on. And right now they're all talking to Trump, but they're not really agreeing on anything. What's happening, no one really wants to come up weak against Trump and turn around with their constituents and say, what, you gave away the store? Say, the guy's crazy. He wants to make deals all the time. Well, don't make a deal. Okay, I don't make a deal. But in the meantime, I just want to let you know we're being charged 10%. China is being charged 30%. Canada and Mexico, 25%. We never charged Canada and Mexico 25% before. It was usually like 3%, 4%. Now, why is Trump doing that? Well, I mean, he's doing it because it's something that needs to be done, quite frankly. You have a huge trade deficit with this country. He's also collecting money, by the way. Again, I want to remind you that if all of these tariffs hold the way they are, we're talking $2 trillion coming over the next 2026 to 2035. Okay, the next 10 years, you're talking about $2 trillion. So it's not a small amount. So when we're talking back and forth and we don't agree, we're collecting money. Now, why is Trump doing that? It's very simple. Trump is doing that because a trade deficit is not a good thing. A trade deficit is when you are bringing more stuff that you're shipping out. But that's great, I'm buying it. Yeah, but the only thing is, well, other people make stuff for you. I mean, if it's a pair of shoes, you don't care. But when it comes to pharmaceutical, when it comes to semiconductor, that might not be a good thing, right? That might be a bad thing. So what he's telling these people is, say, you know what? Let's bring him in. Well, the idea is, you start building the stuff over here. Obviously, this is complicated because it could take some while. I believe that Trump doesn't really want to move anything to the U.S. What he's doing it as we speak. He's collecting money while we're talking. Because, I mean, quite frankly, for a company to come over here and build, yeah, but that's going to take years, right? In the meantime, yeah, what a good parada. You got that right. As the U.S. is doing that, I don't think he expects anyone to move tomorrow morning, right? Because even if they move, the people that don't want to move, they're going to say, I don't want to give in to Trump. Plus, even if I give in to Trump and then tomorrow morning, the next guy that comes around to change the tariffs again, then we're back to square one. Okay, but so what's the solution then, right? The U.S. can't keep having everyone make stuff for them and borrow money, right? Because that's where the money comes from. The money comes from U.S. treasuries that are being issued over and over and over to pay for this stuff. That cannot last forever. It has to end. And frankly, between you and I, even if Kamala, right? Even if Kamala was in charge, she would have to have done something. And if she didn't do something, then somebody else would have to be done, because at $37 trillion of debt, you cannot keep increasing the debt forever. At some point, you need to pay it off. And you cannot have a trade deficit, right, and a fiscal deficit together, because that's what the U.S. has. Now, you may look at the stock market right now, which I believe, if I look at the market right now, the market is up, no, it's down 300 points, actually, sorry, because of this Iran-Israel thing. So take a look at my video I did yesterday on that, which I believe that this thing is going to go on for quite some time. So I hate to say it, it's going to go for a while, because Israel, I mean, look what they did with Gaza. I mean, let's not get into a different topic. Let's stay with the tariffs. But basically, what Trump is trying to do, and what all countries should do, is that you need to reduce your trade deficit. You cannot have a twin deficit. It's like the Twin Towers. It's like a twin deficit. You cannot have both a deficit as far as the fiscal is concerned, which is basically you owe more money than you come taking in, and you have to borrow every year. That's wrong. You can't do that. At the same time, you can have a trade deficit where basically you're bringing more stuff than you're exporting, because then what are you making? What do they want? What do you think these countries want from the US? They want dollars, right? You're exporting dollars. Well, that's good as long as they want your dollars. What happened when these countries say, you know what, I don't want dollars anymore? Keep in mind, right now, right? China is basically thinking, maybe I should be trading with people that I could trust. Maybe I should be trading because I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose the U.S. But at the same time, I don't want to give them the rare minerals. That's going to allow the U.S. to make weapons. Before that was never a question because the U.S. said, okay, whatever, here, I'm buying, and here's the money. And they say, great, we're getting better at it. We're making better weapons. We make better pharmaceutical. You need us. We're independent. We build everything. And even if tomorrow we were to do with the so-called rare minerals, right? If we said the U.S. has lost the ability to take it from the ground, you're relying 100%, well, not 100%, I think you're like 90% on China to get those rare minerals. And you need those rare minerals. You may not care, you may not understand where they are, but you better care because rare minerals, believe it or not, are used to make iPhones, okay? But they also are used to make weaponry. So understand a little bit, you may not agree with Trump, but understand what he's saying, that we're losing an edge as we are not making anything in this country. Now, of course, you could say, well, so is there a better way of doing it? Well, I mean, yeah, because right now Trump is literally coercing these people into doing these things and coming over and collecting money. It's a hard techniques. But you want to do the Biden way or the Obama way? Right? For years, deficit has been increasing and we've been borrowing, borrowing, and borrowing. I don't care which side of the fence you're on, Republican or Democrats. One thing is sure, you cannot have a twin deficit for too long. Countries that have had twin deficit for too many years end up in big trouble. That's what happened with the UK and with the UK today, right? Not doing so great after all. So you need to realize the fact that it's important for you to reduce that trade deficit. Now, of course, as a listener of my channel, and don't forget to subscribe, so you'll know whenever I go live. You're going to say, well, what do I care, right? I mean, I have a job. What do I care about the deficit and all these things? Well, you need to care because if you have a twin deficit for too long, then you could put the country in a huge amount of recession and then you could lose your job and you could lose the equity. In fact, if you think about the equity right now, do you know what's going on in the equity world? Right now, I will tell you that if I take a look at my trusted iPad, right now, the inflation in the US is currently going up, believe it or not, using Trueflation. And if you take a look at the amount of the, the way the stock market are performing, stock markets are performing better in Europe, Spain. I know the market is up in the US, but it just we're back to where we lost. In the meantime, Germany is up 20+%, Spain is up, Italy, the money is moving over to Europe. Don't you? If I know that, right, here in the US, don't you think that these people know it? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, by the way. Don't you think that these people know that? Of course they know it. And they know it very well. And that's why they say something needs to be done, but why it can't be done? I don't know what's going to be done. But all I could tell you, if it doesn't get done soon, the US is going to be in big doo-doo. So as far as we're concerned, right now, the surprising take on the tariffs is that while we're talking and talking, the US is collecting on the tariffs. And that is a good thing. And that you want to see money coming in for the tariffs. This is important for you as an investor. You need to understand the importance of tariffs, right? And they say, well, tariffs are not good. Tariffs are inflationary. Yeah, But what you want to knock on China's door and say, hey, can you stop, you know, charging us so much and making us so difficult to do business with you? Can you help us? Do you think that's going to work? Right? The China has been taking advantage. Take a look at this YouTube video on Fisher, the guy from the Federal Reserve, Richard Fisher, you know, who died recently, right? And he was a big China hawk, and he said, you know what, they're not trading fairly. So Trump going in there, yeah, I know it's boisterous. Yeah, people don't like it. Yes, it's too much. But the only thing is you need to do something. You cannot let China and other countries takes advantage of the U.S. because it's going to impact you, the consumer. It's going to impact your money. It's going to impact your job. Why? Because you cannot have a trade deficit for so long. And worse, a trade deficit combined with a fiscal deficit. That is not something that you want. So keep that in mind the next time you hear about the tariffs.